time, the best rush is the best coverage, and we got to get to the quarterback. It's just nothing else about it. Last game, we did not do that, and I know a lot of people felt hurt after that one, and I hold myself and my room accountable, and also the D-line. That's our job as pass rushers, is to get after the quarterback, and we didn't do that. And so, the difference between this game and that game is we just have to do it. We have to find a way. And I believe in our coaches. I trust in the plan that we now talking over still to be able to do that.
All right. Our next question comes from Mark Schlebel. Mark?
Yeah, Nolan, you're a guy that grew up in the state of Georgia. What do you think it would mean for you guys to get it done in the 41-year drought?
I think it means everything. There's a lot of kids that's born and raised in the state of Georgia, and this is one that you'll never forget. And I always talk about leaving a legacy to my kids, but this is the ultimate, kind of like, a lot of people go to the programs just because of their father and everything. I want that to be my son's choice, but ultimately this is my goal and my dream, to be able to walk back here and, point at, son, this is what I did here. And, we're born and raised here. So why wouldn't we want to do that?
Next will be Heather Dinich. Heather?
Yep. Heading into the SEC championship, there are obviously many people who lauded your defense as historically good and then questioned that evaluation of it after the SEC championship game. What do you say to those critics who kind of doubted how good you guys were because of how Alabama played, and what needs to happen the next time around to cement this defense's place in history?
Obviously, one of the couple things is getting pressure on the cue and just being that relentless front that we always are. Every year inside the box, the front seven at Georgia's always been relentless, and we always do things right, and we always play the run, and it's a privilege to rush the passer. That's one of the things that we say here. Well, we just got to go do it this game. There's nothing else need to be said, and there's nothing need to be done other than trust the plan and go do it.
Next will be Connor Reilly. Connor?
Hey, Nolan, but this being Dan Lanning's last game here, what has he meant to your development, and how has he helped the University of Georgia?
Oh, man. As far as helping the University of Georgia, man, it's crazy, and the things that he do, the scheme that he brought in, the philosophy that he kind of, brought into the SEC in Georgia, as far as, us slanting, us moving gaps, and just being relentless up front and doing a lot little with a lot more. We call it playing a couple gaps, two gapping and stuff like that. We still do all those same things that the old Bama used to do. If you know anything about football, they created the first generational defense, but we're just doing it a little different, I'll say. And we move gaps, and we try to have gap responsibility, and our backers know where everyone's supposed to fit. And it's a little orthodox, but it obviously is working, and I love it.
All right. Next will be Anthony Dasher. Anthony?
Hey, Nolan, good to see you today.
Good to see you too.
I know after, again, getting back to that first game, I know Coach Mark mentioned how that game humbled everyone. That was his word, and perhaps let everybody know that, maybe the team, defense, whatever, maybe not quite as good as everybody thought they would. What was practice like, knowing that, leading up to Michigan and now moving forward to Alabama next Monday night?
Yeah, you can only judge a man by what he does next and how hard he gets hit and gets back up. And I think we got hit pretty hard, and I thought we got up pretty well because guys didn't sweat it from day one. Guys said, we know we need to work. We know we have an opportunity of life. And now that we're here, in the national championship, I think we bounced back pretty well. Now it's time to go finish the job. That's all it is, the need to be said and done. We need to go finish the job and, finish what we started.
Next, we'll hear from Mike Griffith. Mike?
Yeah, hey Nolan. Hey man, 7 quarterback hurries against Michigan. Really, since the Florida game, you've been on fire. How much of it did something click? Are you just seeing the game? Is it all slowed down because the second half of the season, you've really turned it up a notch? It appears.
I mean, I'd say the game slowed down, but also the plan, man. The plan that our coaches implement is just it. It's one thing that we can understand it, but it's another thing to execute the plan at a high level. A lot of guys go in day out and try to understand the plan, but can you execute the plan at a high level? And that's one thing that we talk about being here. And I mean, just be able to play fast and trust the plan and know what you're doing. It helps a lot. It helps a lot.
Next, we'll hear from Cody Chaffins. Cody?
Hey, Nolan, I wonder if you could take me back to your freshman year ECV, you and Nakobe and Trayvon, and what was that room like that you guys shared? Did you dream about moments that are coming up, and what makes you guys so tight?
Yeah, so we didn't all graduate early, and I know one thing that was Trayvon. So it was me, him, and Tresman. And I mean, we were so close. We almost did everything together. Far as all our classes was the same. That's when things weren't COVID freak out. You couldn't have so many people on the buses. We used to get on the bus and be packed like sardines riding the class. And we used to just almost do everything together. And it just built a connection just alone by itself. And then when we came in our junior year, you know, coach started doing those school sessions and we started even talking to each other more, hanging out more and doing things more. And it just built the connection even more. I still remember all 3 of my roommates, we drove to see one of Trayvon's basketball games in high school in Thompson. So I know that's one thing that we did our freshman year because, I mean, on the weekends, we was like, wow, we don't have mom and dad to tell us what to do. Most of the weekends we just laid in bed because we were so tired from workouts. But then after that, we just started doing things together and it became really fun.
Next will be Lance Mccurley. Lance?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You said a second ago about Alabama kind of laying the blueprint kind of for y'all's success, but just a little bit in a different way. How do you think that, this group right now that's on the field is laying the blueprint for some of these freshmen and sophomores and then the recruits coming in kind of moving forward?
I would say the 100% thing that we're doing now and as the leadership group is showing them how to work. You know, we say hard work works at Georgia, but, you know, some kids just get here and think it's all hard and they're just doing this for no reason. And it's a reason, you know, it's a reason that we don't run gases after practice. It's a reason that we do 20s after, you know, certain things that we do. And it's a reason to do that. And I think that, you know, guys are starting to buy into that. And you see the effect, you know, when a lot of guys buy into the strength team program and we all say 1 + 1 = 3. When you have that mindset as guys, the most unselfish guys and the best defense ever, and we're all still unselfish, I think that's just the best thing ever. And that lays the blueprint by itself and just things on how it needs to be done.
Next will be Jake Rowe. Jake?
Nolan, I was wondering if you could take me back to kind of the end of the SEC championship game. And I know you guys have talked about it being a wake-up call and being humbled, but what was your emotion after that game? I mean, what were you feeling once the clock hit 4 zeros and that one was in the books?
You want to know the honest to God truth? I cried. I've been playing football. I'm 20 now. I've been playing football since I was 4. 16 years. I haven't won anything. I haven't won a championship. I won a couple bowl games, but anything big, any championship, I never won yet. And that's one thing that keeps me going. That's just something in the back of my head that I know that keeps me driving. I just want to win. I could care less how it gets done, how pretty it looks. I just want to win and play ball.
Next will be Lane Higgins. Lane?
Hey there, Nolan. Obviously, you weren't around on that 2017 to 2018 team that last played Alabama in the championship, but it seems like they've kind of been a thorn in Georgia's side. You know, maybe not one of the team's typical rivals, but one of circumstance in the last few years, and that you always end up playing Alabama in these big consequential games. Do you think that there's kind of a mental block, or do you think that there's kind of just this I don't know, a different way of viewing Alabama compared to different opponents based on their history against you?
I said this when I was a freshman. I mean, every man wakes up and puts his pants on one leg at a time. There's no such thing as a mental block. The key word is in your head. That's mental. You got to go out and go do it. Get that out your head. I don't think it's a mental block. I think the first time we played them, we gave up a couple big plays. You change 3 plays in a game, and the whole game could be different. And one of those plays are on me myself. You know, I should have been more aware to jump on the ball instead of trying to pick it up and run. And I mean, just you can't have those small mistakes in those big games because it's a game of inches. And as we watch the film over and over again with our coaches' comments, we learn it's a game with just small inches.
Next will be Steve Hummer. Steve?
Yes, hi, Nolan. I don't know, for someone your age, 1980 may seem like the Middle Ages, but I don't know if how much do kids at that program hear about that team and that season, what it did, and is that any motivation at all to drive you to build that kind of legacy?
I mean, 100%. You know, to be the first since the drought, I think, you know, I tell people you'll be a Georgia legend. No matter if you're from the state of Georgia, outside the state of Georgia, you'll be a Georgia legend. And we came here to be legendary, be special, leave your mark. You know, like I always say, you know, I want to bring my kid back and tell him this is what I did. I want to leave my mark. I just don't want to be another University of Georgia player.
Next will be Andrea Adelson.
Hi, Nolan. As a follow-up to that, I'm wondering if you watched the national championship game between these two teams a few years ago as a Georgia kid and top prospect, and if you did, where you were and what you remember about watching it.
Oh man, I remember the first time I watched the Rose Bowl. I was just sitting on my couch, just me and my mom. We had it on TV, and I was just watching it. I was like, if we block this kick, this could be crazy. And you know, I actually play football, so I know about, you know, blocking kicks at the end of the game. That stuff can really happen. And then when Lorenzo did it, I mean, outside linebacker, Wolfpack, I mean, I was absolutely jumping and screaming, and I was so excited. And then when Sony ran it in, I was just like, oh, that's a wrap. We'll see y'all in Atlanta. And for the Atlanta game, I stayed up there, and actually I didn't go because it was just too much for me. I don't like all those people and all that stuff. But I watched it, and I was tuned in from first quarter all the way to fourth quarter. And just the thing that I remember about that game is just the people, the atmosphere. Through the TV, you can feel it. And especially during this game, you can feel it too.
Next will be Ralph Russo. Ralph?
Good morning, Nolan. I wanted to ask you about coming to, now you're a Georgia guy, so I'm sure you had some ties to want to come to Georgia. You come to Georgia as a huge recruit. You know, you don't play a massive amount early on. I'm wondering how much benefit did you feel you would get from just being surrounded by so many good players? Like, I think so many players look for that early playing time, but that clearly wasn't you. How much benefit do you get from practicing with those guys and just being surrounded by so many good players, even though it might limit your playing time?
I mean, for number one to start is Aziz. I mean, Aziz, I feel like he took me under his wing, even though he wasn't saw as like a big guy when he came in. Aziz and Adam, they took me under their wing, and, you know, they showed me how to work, and they showed me, man, you just trust the process, man. You this and that. And I never thought about leaving because I knew this is what my mom wanted me to be. This is where I wanted to be. So I just came in and made the best of every day and tried to work and get better. I mean, I'm a Georgia boy. I love the state of Georgia. And as far as going anywhere else other than being here is, I don't know. I wouldn't think. But seeing those guys work and how they did things day in and day out and being Georgia kids, it just helped me a lot, and it kept me centered, you know, to say guys still want to be here and guys still want to do this. And why should I think about leaving and be selfish? And that I just think that's selfish, you know. I mean, I understand guys leaving programs to, you know, go do bigger and better things and more playing time. But I mean, crazy now that guys are considering leaving programs just because of NIL deals. And that's just not about football. Football is a team sport. And I say it all the time, it's the ultimate team sport. You just got to sacrifice a lot. And I get that playing a lot, playing defense. I'm not an offensive player. You know, I don't want the ball in my hand a lot of times. I just want to do my job for my team.
Nolan, thank you very much. That concludes your session here. Appreciate your time today. We'll see you in Indianapolis.
Yes, sir. Y'all take care.
Joining us next will be linebacker Quay Walker. Morning, Quay. Can you hear us okay?
Good morning. Yeah, I can hear you pretty good.
Great. Thank you, everyone. This is linebacker Quay Walker. We'll kick things off with our first question coming from Christopher Heidel. Christopher.
Hey, Clay. Thanks for taking my question this morning. Congratulations making it to the big game this weekend on Monday. What do you guys got to do to control that Alabama offense? Because it seems like when against Cincinnati learned how to control them a little bit, but the experience helped them at the end. What do you guys got to do to make that not happen at the end of the game on Monday?
We just got to do what we're capable of doing, execute on a high level, communicating to one another, and just doing things that we need to do on the back end and the front end as well. We just pretty much can't give up no plays like we did in the SEC Championship. We gave up a lot of plays by a few busts, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. But in order for us to do what we have to do, just manage the quarterback pretty good when rushing and, set the quarterback as well. And things should be where it's supposed to be.
Next will be Michael Casagrande. Michael.
What made it so difficult to get to Bryce Young in that first game?
To be honest, I really can't say. It was just pretty much just the way we rushed. And we just we got really, really close a couple of times, but at the end of the day, you just gotta finish when getting close. So pretty much the main thing at that.
Next, we'll hear from Connor Reilly. Connor.
Hey, Quay, I hope you're doing well. With this being Dan Lanning's last game at Georgia, what kind of impact do you think he's had on this program in the 4 years that he's been here?
We pretty much enjoyed Coach Lanning. All of us have enjoyed Coach Lanning since he came in. I remember like yesterday, we just got on to the staff. The day he came in my house, it was actually during recruiting time. I think I want to say around late December, November, whatever, probably January or something like that. But he played a huge impact as well as all of our other coaches as well. We're going to miss him. So hope that answers your question.
All right. Chip Towers. Chip.
Let me unmute here. A little bit more on the pressure situation. Did you feel like it was? It looked like it watching the game that you guys. It wasn't for lack of trying. I mean, you guys put some of your pressure packages on and just didn't get there. How much of it was them thwarting what you were trying to do, and how much of it was sometimes it seemed like you guys dropped a lot of guys in coverage?
I pretty much say it just fell back on us. I think we had everything dialed up pretty good, but sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But more than likely, I think in that game it worked. But like I said earlier, like we just couldn't really get home. We was there or whatnot, but it may be a little small little nib that we had to do to get better in order for us to do what we had to do to get a sack or to get him down, or whatever the case may be. But that whole game, I think the game plan was pretty good for us and what we did by dropping the coverage and showing all types of things and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he's a pretty smart guy. So you just got to play football.
Next will be Zachary Braziller. Zach.
What do you remember? Obviously you weren't on the team then, but from the 2018 national championship game, did you watch it and what did you remember? And also, have you guys heard a lot about that at all now that there's a rematch?
Only thing I remember watching, watched the whole game. It was a pretty good game. I know we came out with the lead at first. Things started to change later towards the game. But other than that, no, we haven't talked about that or even the past game or whatnot. Besides us talking about our mistake that we made in that game and things that we gave up. But other than that, no, nobody hasn't talked about that game.
Next, we'll hear Anthony Dasher. Anthony?
Hey, Quay. You hear and read a lot that, schematically Georgia, has to do this differently defensively. It's got to do that defensively. Is it really that simplistic, or is it just a matter, again, of just executing, no missed tackles, no bust, etc.?
Yeah, that's it. That's the only thing we have to do. Just worry about us, tackle well, rally to the ball, and, communicate or whatnot so we won't have these type of busts that we had in that past game. Something we have to do. And just play our game, and everything else should take care of itself and play out fine.
Next will be Heather Dinich. Heather?
Quay, for 12 games, your defense was lauded as historically good. And then the SEC championship game took some luster off of that. How much does your defense still have to prove in your mind?
At the end of the day, we just have to prove to ourselves, me proving to those other 10 guys that I'm out there on the field with, and the offense as well as a whole team. We have nothing to be worried about proving anybody else outside of this building, outside of this team. At the end of the day, we're the only ones that matter and what it comes down to. So other than that, our main focus is just need to be on worrying about us and how we can get better as a team and be able to do what we need to do in order for us to get a win on Monday.
Next will be Steve Croner.
Working on a story on Brock Bowers, wondering how soon did you realize he was going to make as big an impact as he has? And is there one play either in practice or in game that really stands out for you as Brock leaving his mark on the 2021 Georgia Bulldogs?
Pretty much as soon as he came in, as we started doing conditioning, summer conditioning and doing those types of things, the way he pushed himself, the way he stood out, probably wouldn't be able to tell that he was a freshman just coming in, the way he worked. But yeah, I think he pretty much wired different in the way that he built and the way that he came in and started working. He's made a ton of plays. The plays that you see him making the game, the same as that plays he make in practice. So.
Next will be Dennis Dodd. Dennis?
Hey, Quake, thanks congratulations on getting there. What is it about the linebacker position that drew you to it? I don't know what age, I don't know when you started there, but that seems to be the center of most defenses.
You saying what made me start playing linebacker?
Yeah, what drew you to it, to play that position?
Actually, it started in high school. One of my coaches, Coach Shelton Felton, I was playing I think I was playing offense at the time, and next thing you know, he was just like, I think I was real physical on the offensive side. He was like, next year I'm gonna switch to defense. And by the time I switched to defense, before I want to say played a down the defense, it was already out to certain colleges or whatnot, just because of my size and everything like that. So that pretty much started me playing defense or linebacker. I think that answered your question by me just being real physical on the offensive side of the ball.
Great, thank you.
Next will be Lance Mccarley. Lance?
Quay, the hit that Chas Chambliss had the other night, obviously he was ejected from the game, but what was that kind of reaction in the locker room when he took down that back and just kind of showed his skill, and how important is he for the future of this program, especially with some of the younger guys?
I can't say in the locker room, but I know on the sideline we was pretty hyped about it. It's a great hit. Chaz is a person that worked real, real hard and has a bright future as well. A lot of those guys come in and they work each and every day just by seeing the older guys and the leaders. So seeing the way we work, it pretty much affects them and draw an impact on them coming in and getting better each and every day and far on towards the future. So, yeah.
Next will be Jake Rowe. Jake?
Clay, how did you process that SEC championship loss to Alabama? What were your emotions, immediately after that game?
I felt pretty bad. Since being here, I'm 0-3 against them. So that felt pretty bad. But knowing that we didn't have any sacks, knowing we didn't have any sacks on defense, any turnovers, more than likely, you're not going to win that game if you don't do those types of things. So at the end of the day, I pretty much already knew they were pretty much the better team that day because we didn't execute on those types of things. So as bad as I wanted to say it hurt it as it did, I kind of pretty much already knew why we didn't win that game. So I knew the mistakes that we had already made that led up until that. So
Next to be Michael Casagrande. Michael?
Yeah, we've always heard a lot about how Kirby Smart's this ultimate competitor. Do you have any stories, any memories behind the scenes about him and his, ultra competitive side?
No, I don't pretty much have any memories about it, but I know I have a lot. It's a lot I could say, but I can't really just tell you one off my head. I think everybody know how Coach Smart is without me being able to tell y'all. I think y'all can see that from the outside. So, yeah.
Next will be Jake Jennings. Jake?
Clay, we heard earlier this year that Stetson uses a flip phone. He's gotten a lot of criticism this season and seems like he usually bounces back pretty well. Is he somebody that is not really involved with what people are saying about him and he just likes to stay focused, and is having a flip phone a part of that?
I want to say I think Stetson had a flip phone before the start of the season, I want to say. But, Stetson don't really pay too much attention to what's being said to him. We don't either. So like I said earlier, I think for a question, the main thing is just for us to worry about all the guys that's in here because don't nobody else matter in their opinion. At the end of the day, whether you're doing good or bad, somebody's going to have something bad to say about you anyway, regardless. So I think that's his main focus and the way that he approached that and just cancel out all the outside noise. Give major props to him for that. But, yeah, Stetson Ben had a flip phone. I don't think he really too much care about the outside noise and social media.
Hey there. I know that you weren't necessarily around on that 2018 team that lost to Alabama in the championship, but I'm curious, does it seem like they sort of have your number and that every time Georgia goes up against them, and no matter if you guys are leading into half, that there's still just this team that you can't quite overcome? Like, does it seem like that's kind of, everyone else, not everyone else, but a few other teams that have won championships like LSU and Clemson have been able to get one over on Alabama? Does it feel like, Georgia has just not been able to measure up to that?
Well, this team haven't played Alabama in a national championship before, other than like the 2018 team. But just being able to get this opportunity to go play a national championship at the biggest stage for all our careers, when we're playing in one of the biggest games of our lives, it's awesome. Just being able to go against a fantastic team like Alabama at a big stage like this, can't take this opportunity for granted. So just got to go out there and play our best game.
Great. Next, we'll hear from Chip Towers. Chip?
Yeah, Kears, kind of on that note, as an elite athlete, all you guys are, both sidelines. How do you handle that, moments like this? Bright lights, cameras flying around, cameras in your face everywhere you turn around, and focus on playing as well as you can. Do you get anxious? Is there a routine that you have that helps you deal with all the expectations and pressure?
Yeah, you got to trust your technique and just tunnel vision throughout the whole way. We made it this far. There's been all type of cameras and things on the sideline for every game, but this game just you playing for something that's bigger, and that's national championship. But just can't let that lose our focus and just keep our tunnel vision the whole way through what got us here.
Next will be Lance Mccarley. Lance? I think we have lost Lance, so let's go to Anthony Dasher. Anthony?
Hey, Karis, good to see you. Describe the energy it's given the rest of the wide receiver room to have George Pickens back, and kind of what did you think of his pancake block he had against Michigan?
Oh yeah, George brings a lot of energy to the team and to the receiver room, and the block he put up against Michigan, it was kind of funny because I didn't notice it until I seen the video going around. And just, I mean, he does it all the time. Did it last year, did it the year before that. I mean, that's just been how the way George plays, very physical, and just love to do things to go viral, I guess.
Next will be Mark Schlebel. Mark. Mark, you there?
Harris, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Sorry. Being a kid from Georgia, guy from Georgia, what would it mean to be part of the team that ended the 41-year drought for you personally?
Yeah, it means a lot to me, especially growing up in South Georgia, Fort Valley, Georgia. I mean, it's a lot of Bulldog fans down that way. And just ever since I've been going to school here, when I committed here, I mean, the whole community just been showing love, even in Athens as well, just being able to know that all they want before everyone, all they say is all they want is Georgia championship. So with me knowing that and what my team is knowing it as well, like not only we fight for each other, but we fight for the ones in our community as well. Because shoot, they're Georgia fans just like how we are, and just in order for them to get a championship, we got to go out there and do our job so we get one as well. So it's going to be major for us to go win one.
Okay, let's try Lance Mccarley again. Lance.
Hey, there we go. Sorry, my option went away. Hey, Curious, how important is it to have guys like Ladd and Brock and, you know, some of these other guys who have helped that, especially when you guys have dealt with a lot of injuries at the receiver position this year?
Those guys have been able to step up tremendously. Like you said, we had guys down early in the season. Those guys stepped up, next player up mentality, and just they was prepared for the moments. I mean, we practice hard every day, every game, every practice is like a game. So they prepared mentally and physically as well as the things that we do. Coach Smart put us through in practice. I mean, we be well prepared for the game.
Next will be Steve Croner. Steve.
Curious, was wondering at what point in the season did you realize, maybe even before the season, that Brock Bowers would have as big an impact on your offense as he has? And is there one specific play, either in practice or in the game, that really stands out to you about his play this season?
I knew Brock Bowers was going to be a playmaker back in the fall camp. I mean, he was out there making plays. I mean, he reminded me of Travis Kelce, how the way he was just making plays, you know, like just having a tight end like him has been a huge tradition to the team. And just that play versus Bama in the SEC championship game, he had caught the ball, broke like 3-4 tackles and ended up scoring. I was like, yeah, he a dog. But he's been certified in my book, and just the way he plays is he's a dog. That's all you can really say.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Next will be Dennis Dodd. Dennis. Dennis Dodd. Next.
There you go. You need to unmute me.
Oh, you left again.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, Dennis, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, you didn't unmute me. Yeah, Curious, real quick, could you describe briefly the walk-on culture at Georgia? Do they dress in a different place, stuff like that before practice? And what kind of confidence does it take from a guy like Stetson Bennett you weren't there, but to step on campus and believe, you know, I can be the starting quarterback at Georgia?
I don't know where you get the dressing part from, because we all a team here. We all dress in the same locker room. We all treat each other the same. I mean, one has a scholarship, one doesn't have one, but we don't look at that as like any makes anyone bigger or not. But Stetson, I mean, he came in as a walk-on, you know, came back, was on scholarship. I mean, he worked his way up. I mean, he didn't listen to everyone who was down him. He just kept his head down and kept pushing and kept chopping. I mean, everyone has the ability to make plays, and just it's all about the opportunity you're given. He made every opportunity the best.
Thank you.
Next will be Steve Hummer. Steve?
There we go. Hey, Kearis, a couple of historical type questions. I'm wondering, as a Georgia receiver, for example, how tuned in are you to the legend of Lindsey Scott?
We're just proud of what's going on. And just as a receiver, we just have to see what's going on, and that's just the most important thing for us to just focus on what's going on.
Well, you know, as a member, he was a member of the 1980 team, and how much does that team get brought up to you guys even now?
It gets brought up pretty often, just knowing that was the last national championship that was won at Georgia, which has been for like 41 years from now, and just knowing that that's the goal, is just to win a championship here, and just hearing those names and things like that going on just kind of motivates us that, I mean, we have the team to do it. And like, it's the year now with the opportunities right here in front of us, January 10th, we have to go make a statement so we could be the next ones that people are going to be talking about, the 2021 team.
Thanks.
Next will be Andrea Adelson.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, Kearis. Thank you for doing this. I think you were an early enrollee in 2018. So I'm not sure if you were there while the team was practicing for the national championship game. But if you were, what do you remember about that time? And then what do you remember about watching the game and maybe some of the disappointment in the result?
Yeah, I was here when I was practicing for the national championship, and just being a part of the team just for that short amount of period, like for a whole week. I mean, I feel like I was a part of the team, feel like I was getting ready to go play, but that wasn't the story. But just knowing the work that those guys put in that week, I was a scout team member, so I just felt like I was just trying to get my best look, just try to push myself that I'm going against one of the top defenses in the country, and just knowing that they was getting ready to go play a national championship game made me feel a part of the team as well. But I mean, just going back home after I was practicing, just being able to watch the game on TV kind of fueled myself that, man, like, in the next few months, I'm about to be in those same colors with those same guys that can be playing for something that's bigger than I ever expected, like, which is a national championship. And today has finally presented itself that I'll be playing my first national championship. So it's been like a dream come true and a journey as well.
Thank you.
Next will be Michael Casagrande. Michael?
What kind of competitor is Kirby Smart? And do you have any memories, any stories about him in practice that kind of shows his competitive side?
I'm pretty sure you can see his competitive side on the sideline every time they flip the camera on him during the game and stuff. Like, he's always hyped up. I mean, he got a competitive mindset. I mean, that's what I like playing for Coach Smart. I mean, he's always been a competitor. I mean, he lets us compete in practice as well by letting us go good on good, just showing us what we got and what we're capable of doing. I mean, when you do that with competitor versus competitor, I mean, all you're doing is sharpening iron. And that's what Coach Smart preaches every day, compete.
Next will be Mike Griffith. Mike?
Hey, Kearis, talk a little bit about your journey. I mean, I guess we've seen you go through just about everything too, you know, tailback reps, hamstring, wrist injury, go-to guy, 9 catches, 147 yards, return guy, and now a blocking receiver playing a smaller role maybe with the ball in your hands. Talk about that perseverance and how have you maintained such consistency going through all those different things in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much said that started when I was a child. I know my mom was always hard on me, things like that. Everything is not going to go your way. And once you hit adversity, you just got to know how to respond with it. And my mom always just taught me to just keep your head down. Don't let one injury or one bad downfall define who you is as a person. And like, knowing my role is a little bit smaller this year, I still take it as like I'm a major key part of this team, because I am. And just knowing what I'm doing for this team, I'm playing my role, just being there for my teammates. that's the best thing I could do right now, and I'm enjoying it. And so far as us to play in the national championship, so it's just not what I can do as a person, but what can we do as a team.
Next will be Connor Reilly. Connor?
Yeah, hey, Kyrus. Earlier on, you mentioned, practice being tougher than games. When did you sort of first realize that was the case at Georgia, and how do you make that adjustment to where you're practicing harder than you are playing in games?
Sure, my first spring here, honestly. I mean, we had like 18 some peers. I was like, I'm not used to this, but at the same time, I'm not gonna say I wasn't used to it. I was used to the volume of running we was doing. I mean, growing up at Peach County, going to Peach County High School, I mean, all our practice was physical. We could be playing on a Friday and be still tackling on Thursday. So I'm pretty much built for like the physical part, but just all the volume of like all the running and things like that, I had to, get in shape, get adjusted to like the way that Georgia practicing. I mean, I just wasn't too far behind when I got here and things like that as far as terms of being physical, but I did have to like learn how to push myself a little bit harder, be able to sustain reps, sustain practice time, because everything gets a little bit longer and once you get in college and things like that. So it's just been like pretty much an adjusting way that I was prepared before I got to college as well.
Next will be Jake Rowe. Jake?
Kyrus, can you take me back to the SEC championship game and your emotions once that game was over? How did you feel?
I was hurt, I was hurt. I mean, see, the SEC championship game is always around my birthday, and like for the past 3-4 years since I've been at Georgia, like that's all I wanted for my birthday was SEC championship win. And like obviously I haven't won anything yet, but it's always just a tough moment. I mean, of course I want to win it for myself, but I want to win it for my teammates as well. So just being able to lose those championship games really was hurtful. But now I'm just grateful and blessed that you see the thing behind me, 2020 National Championship. I'm able to play in something that's bigger than the SEC Championship.
All right. Thank you very much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you in Indianapolis.
Okay, thank you.
Joining us next will be Georgia offensive coordinator Todd Monken. Give you just a minute here, and he'll be up at the podium. Morning, Coach. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Great. We'll kick things off. We have a number of writers here to ask some questions. First up will be Ralph Russo. Ralph?
Hey, Todd. I wanted to tap into a little of your past experience in college and the NFL. When you joined Georgia, is part of the allure being able to work with so many guys who are sort of potential to be future NFL players? I mean, you've worked at many different levels. I'm wondering if being drawn back to Georgia, part of that was, hey, this is where all the best and future NFL players go.
Well, I think you hit it on the head. I think you want to be at a place where you have no barriers to success. And that starts with being able to get great football players, working with a great staff, an elite academic institution, and being right down the road from Atlanta. So when you're recruiting, players and their families, we check all the boxes. So you want to be a place where you check all the boxes. And that was University of Georgia.
Next will be Steve Croner. Steve?
Doing a story on Brock Bowers. How soon before he got on campus did you realize he was going to have such an impact on your offense? And how have you made him a better tight end? And how has he made you a better offensive coordinator?
Well, the first part of it is, first of all, we saw his work ethic. I spoke about that, a week ago about how he's wired. So we don't have to touch on that anymore. He's wired the right way. He works awfully hard at his craft. He only knows one speed. So right away, we know he'd be able to contribute. Did we know it'd be to this extent? Of course not. So, but once we saw him work, his skill set, we knew that, we had a chance to have somebody that we could rely on. And as he's continued to develop, Coach Hartley deserves a lot of credit, one, for recruiting him, two, for developing him. We've just tried to continually move him around, put him in a position to make plays. He's embraced that. He works awfully hard. He's had a lot more to do with what we do, in terms of how he works and how he prepares than I've had to do with his progression. I mean, that's just because of the way he's wired.
Next will be Seth Emerson. Seth?
Todd, as great as Stetson was the other night, as really good as he's been, there's obviously 2 games against Alabama that are kind of blot on his resume. Do you see anything kind of common in those games that is instructive about this one, or did you see those 2 games as just kind of separate from the rest of what Stetson does?
Well, I mean, I don't see it as that those 2 games are going to predict the future. I don't see it that way. I see it as, he's played, I don't know how many games as starting quarterback, and like any player, they've had their moments where they haven't played up to what they believe their standard to be, or we believe that standard to be. It just so happens to have come in the second half against the team we're about to play. But, we just need to understand that the first 2 halves of each of those games was outstanding. And I've said that before, he has everything we need to be successful offensively. And our issues with turnovers aren't his issue in particular. That's everybody in this country. If you turn the ball over, you're not going to win, no matter how you do it. The first turnover a year ago was a batted ball that was out of his control. The second interception was a tip pass on an in cut that went directly to him. Now the third one was a poor decision. So the bottom line is I can do it better as a coordinator to put him in better position to be successful. He understands that. Our team understands that. So, I expect him to play well, just like I did last week.
Next will be Chip Towers. Chip?
Yeah, kind of in that vein, Coach. You have an extensive NFL background, playing another team in close proximity just a few weeks later. Tell me a little bit about the decisions on what to change, what to do different, what to keep the same, and maybe have the same things seem different, and that kind of stuff. Seems pretty complicated.
Well, you're right. It is a little bit different. You do get that in the NFL with your division teams, where you play them twice, and sometimes you can play them relatively close together like this is. And, and we played them last year, so we've got enough film on what they want to do, and they're not going to change. They're successful for a reason for what they do, and so are we. I mean, if you're constantly changing what you do and your identity, I don't think you're going to be very good at anything. So obviously we take from the things that we did well and build on that, and the things we didn't do as well. And obviously there's calls that we had that in both games, or other opportunities that we didn't get called. So we're looking forward to the opportunity and the shot at it, and they're going to get our best. I can promise you that.
Next will be Anthony Dasher. Anthony?
Hey, Todd. How do you best quantify, the improvements when you talk about Stetson that he's made from last year to right now to become starting quarterback?
Well, I think he's obviously second year in the system, being around us as a coaching staff. What we do offensively, I think, is big. And just playing. I think we forgot at times, that he really hadn't played a lot of football here. And I think being around the same players, I think the consistency that we've had at times, that we've tried to get the ball to those guys have helped. But to me, he's matured in terms of understanding what we want to get done, and also just playing. There's just the reps that you get in practice and then games that get into your memory bank, whether they're scars or things you've solved or decision-making, I think all comes into that. And the longer you play, a guy like Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or those guys, or Ryan Fitzpatrick, I mean, some of the things they do now, they didn't do early on in their career. That develops over time. And they continue to improve their game and their understanding of what we want done.
All right, next will be Dennis Dodd. Dennis?
Got it this time. Todd, you were pretty emphatic of your support for Stetson last week when talking about JT. Stetson's got 10 touchdowns in the last 3 games. I just wonder if there was a point where, I don't know what the word is, that you trusted him more to go downfield, to do more things, or is that overestimating it?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think the hardest part is the way our season has gone. You know, our season, we've had a tremendous season. And for a number of those games, we put ourselves in position to where we didn't need the quarterback to make plays in the second half of games. You know, some people could look at that and say, well, why didn't you take the opportunity to continue to get more reps or get other quarterbacks opportunities? Not in my mind. My mind was to win that one game in particular and get off the field without, you know, injuries. And so that's probably the hardest part when you try to look at, you know, throwing the ball down the field in terms of opportunity. Our defense played so well. And so I think that's probably a little unfair that we didn't trust him to throw it down the field. It was just a matter of opportunities, I think, is more than anything, because the way the games went.
Next we'll hear from Mark Schlebel. Mark? Mark, you with us?
You talked about Georgia checking all the boxes in terms of resources and recruiting area and facilities and everything else. Were you aware that they hadn't won a title since 1980 when you got there? How much have you heard about it, and what would it mean to end that?
I had not, because I really, in a lot of ways, that didn't factor into it because I knew what the place was like now, you know, and I knew the success that they had, and we're awfully close in previous years to that. And that's what you can ask, is just an opportunity to put yourself in the tournament or in position, I guess the best way to put it. So I just knew that the opportunity to get really good players, an elite academic institution, Atlanta being right down the road, unbelievable support. And I think that's where you want to be.
Next will be Matt Baker. Matt?
Hey, Todd, I'm with the Tampa Bay Times. So I wanted to ask you about your time with the Buccaneers. I'm sure you've learned something every stop you've been at. What about your time with the Bucs has kind of helped you become a better coach at this level?
Well, first of all, I loved my time at Tampa, the 3 years I was there, working for a close friend and mentor, Dirk Cutter, who gave me an opportunity to come back to the NFL as an offensive coordinator. You know, we still have a place down there, but the organization was first class. The Glazers treated me with unbelievable respect. The front office, you know, was tremendous. You know, what I remember is, unfortunately, we just didn't get it done. We didn't win enough games, but really enjoyed the players. We had a great nucleus of players. I learned a lot in terms of how hard it is to win in the NFL. And I shouldn't say I learned that. I knew that anyways, but it's hard, you know, to win in the NFL. And but the bottom line is we didn't win enough games, but the relationships that I had with everybody as part of the organization and the coaches and the players was unbelievable.
Next will be Mark Weiser. Mark?
Hey, Todd, being a guy that grew up in the Midwest, what will it be like to coach this game in Indianapolis? And we have family coming from that part of the country, and being a play caller in the national championship game, does that excite you as a guy that's been doing this for a long time?
Well, I don't miss the cold, so that part of it doesn't overly excite me. Thank God the game's indoors, so that doesn't factor into that. Sure, it's always nice to be close enough where family can come to the game and see us play, and you know, but we obviously don't control that. But I'm excited for the game. I'm excited for our players. This is about our players and the opportunity that they have in front of them that they've earned. I mean, they've earned this by the hard work they put in starting at the end of last year. This is a year-long process that our guys have been through to get to this point and to have this opportunity. And it's everything that we do it for. Everybody has this initial goal going into it. And our guys have worked incredibly hard to get to this point and have trusted in the message that we've sent. And they've carried that out for the most part throughout the year. So I'm excited to see them play this doesn't come around very often, this opportunity to win a championship. So I think our guys are excited. We've started off the week the right way, and we'll see.
Next will be Mike Rodak. Mike.
Just on Brock Bowers, how do you approach, Alabama playing the second time now and trying to stay a step ahead of them, presumably with them trying to stop him after the impact he had in the first game?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we'd be guessing. We'd be guessing at certain things they would do to stop a particular player. We've got film from the last few years of them playing some really, really good players. You go back to, playing LSU a couple of years ago with the receivers they had in Joe Burrow, and they did a couple of things to try and change that up a little bit. But the reality is they're good because they do what they do. Sure, do they understand an opponent's really, really good players and what you want to do schematically? Of course. But they knew that going into last game. Obviously, he had a number of catches, but they knew that going into last game. So we don't anticipate a heck of a lot different, just maybe in terms of, where he's located or, different calls based on formation sets and what we do to get him the ball. But outside of that, to think that they're going to line up two guys over him and double team him it would be a stretch.
Next will be Mike Griffith. Mike.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, we see you operating at the 10,000-foot view from the press box, but on the sidelines, we see JT engaging Stetson, and we hear Kirby talking about the quarterback room. I think you've mentioned it. How important is that, and as far as the in-game adjustments for those quarterbacks to communicate?
Well, I think any communication can be a positive or a negative depending on how it's presented and what you're telling a player. It can be a positive or negative for me. It can be a positive or negative from any interaction you give the quarterback, from a confidence standpoint, from an awareness standpoint, from what you're expecting to see or what you've seen. So all of that's a plus. I think JT is going to do a great job in a very tough situation of embracing that part of it and doing everything he can to help Stetson and us in game prep and being ready should the opportunity arise. And Stetson has done the same even when he wasn't playing. So I do think that, those guys staying involved in the game and the information that we give them is critically important throughout a game.
All right. Our next question is from Zach Klein. Zach.
Coach, in your years of major college football and the NFL, where would you rank Will Anderson's ability to wreak havoc on opposing offenses and cause problems in preparation?
Well, you certainly want to know where he is. And it's not just from a pass rush standpoint. He does a really good job of, if you get into the zone read game where he tries to hit you at the junction point, and try to disrupt from the open side. So, and he plays with relentless effort. I think he has a tremendous skill set. They do a good job of moving him around. And, he plays with relentless effort. Those are all, good signs of a player that you've always got to be aware of where he's at and the matchups that you have. And like any team, they're no different, just like with him, just like last week. You got to be careful of getting yourself into a drop back passing game all the time and putting yourself at risk.
All right, Coach, thank you very much for your time today. We look forward to seeing you in Indianapolis.
Thank you.
Joining us next will be running back James Cook. James, thanks for your time this morning. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. All right. We will start. The first question is from Jake Jennings. Jake?
Hey, James. Just wanted to ask, Stetson's gotten a lot of criticism this year. Sorry, I just got muted again. He seemed to have done a pretty good job kind of not listening to the noise and staying focused. Even heard that he's had a flip phone, which might play into that a little bit. But I wanted to ask you what you can say about your quarterback's focus and poise in those situations where some people don't believe in him.
I mean, he just kind of ignored it and just block it out and just kind of work every day to lead us to a national championship. That's what he's been doing all year and all season long.
Next will be Chip Towers. Chip?
Hey, James, how are you?
I'm good.
If I'm not mistaken, you have played for three different offensive coordinators while you've been at Georgia. And I just wonder if you could sort of give us some perspective on what it's like to play for Todd Monken. What's maybe different about him?
I mean, what's different about him, he want all the little details right. Like, he don't want no, like, he want you running the route on air. He wanted to be perfect. Like make your game like, because in the game, if you get this look, he wants you to make it like you in the game. So that's what's kind of different about him, because he was in the NFL, I guess, probably, and they do a lot of things different. So, yeah, just about the little details and things like that.
Thank you.
Next will be Zachary Braziller. Zach?
Hey, James. Wanted to ask you kind of a two-parter. First, what was it like, sitting out the bowl game last year and then seeing your position coach with your jersey number? I'm sure that was emotional and very difficult. And then the part two of that is, as you're getting ready for this game, I mean, how much is your father kind of on your mind?
I mean, I try not to think about that as much. But I mean, him wearing my jersey last year, that was special. And I appreciate it from the whole Georgia staff, everybody around here who texted me and gave me encouraging words. And I mean, just everybody around here just made me feel special. So, I mean, yeah.
How much did that factor in, deciding to come back to try to win a national championship? How big was that?
I mean, that was big because I had something to work for. And why I came back is because I never been to a national championship. So I just wanted to be different and come back.
Next will be Steve Croner. Steve?
I'm working on a story on Brock Bowers. When I mention the name Brock Bowers to you, what comes to your mind?
Oh, he just put his head down and work. Don't really say too much. Give you all he got on the field. And I mean, just a great brother and a great teammate.
Next will be Lance McCurley.
Hey, James, I don't know if we asked you this the other night. I wasn't in on that interview, but how many times did y'all run that pass with that trick play with Kenny, halfback pass? And were any other running backs considered in that decision, you or Dejan or Zeus?
Oh, no, that's his play. We worked on it all week leading up to the game, and we ran it in the game. So, yeah.
All right. Next will be Daniel Tortora.
James, just what you can say about your relationship with your brother and what type of conversation you have going into a game like this with him obviously excelling at the running back craft as well.
I mean, he really just tell me to stay locked in all year, ready, and get what I deserve, get what I deserve, and that's where I'm at now. So he just tell me just keep working, and my time gonna come, and my time here. So I gotta make the most of it because you only get one of these opportunities, and as you can say, this is my last one. So I gotta make the most of it.
Next is Mike Griffith. Mike?
Yeah, apologize that mute came up late. We've seen at times Georgia backs maybe not get into a rhythm. There's so much substituting, and I know Zamir gets the bulk of the carries. You seem to have found a way to flip that switch pretty quickly when you get in the game. Is that something you have to learn as a running back? Because we hear so much about the need to get rhythm, and yet they put you in there and you're kind of like the microwave heating up fast.
I mean, me, I just trying to make my opportunities count when I get the ball. Like me, when I get the ball, I think about going 80 every time. So it don't make me no difference. So who get the ball? So I mean, as long as I keep making my opportunities count, and when I get it, then that's gonna work. But I don't really need to get in the groove ready. As long as I get the ball, I'm gonna make all my opportunities count.
Next will be Jake Rowe. Jake?
James, I wanted to ask you about the SEC championship game loss. What were your emotions after that game? We've heard from some of the other guys, but can you take me back to how you were feeling immediately when that game was over?
I mean, I knew we had another shot, so I wasn't really down on myself because, I knew we would get another chance. And when we came back to practice, everybody came to work, and we got that bad taste out of our mouth on Friday.
Next will be Christopher Heidel. Christopher?
Hey, James. Thanks for taking my question. And we talked earlier this year when you played against Kentucky. Good game on that one. Talk about against Alabama's running defense. They controlled Cincinnati so much on New Year's Eve. What do you guys have to do to get that running game established? Because they're pretty decent up front.
I mean, just stay physical like we've been doing all year. I mean, we got the guys up front too. I mean, we just got to stay physical like we've been doing all year and come to play.
All right, next will be Mike Griffith. Mike?
Hey, James, yeah, you've been making these sort of plays in practice since your freshman year. What's the difference between the James Cook we see now and the guy that all the other teammates were talking about your freshman year?
I mean, I really couldn't prove myself back then because I had a lot of guys in front of me. But now I just gotta let it loose because I'm older now, so and I know what to do. I'm experienced and I'm a vet, so I mean, I just kind of let it loose this year and then just work the whole offseason to get to this point now.
Next will be Zachary Braziller. Zachary?
James, you mentioned your brother. How much motivation is that? Growing up to have an older brother doing everything he's done, and he's obviously in the NFL doing everything you hope to do. How much has that been a motivational factor during your life?
That is a motivational factor, like just knowing that you got an older brother in the NFL, and that's some place you want to be someday. So I mean, that just kind of made me want to work extra hard, just knowing I got an older brother in the league, and that's balling. So that played a big factor in it too.
Next will be Davis Baker. Davis?
Hey, James. Nolan talked a little bit earlier about leaving a legacy and potentially being a Georgia legend. Is that something that the team is embracing heading into this game?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. We just want to do something and be special that nobody can take away from us. And he'll be here for years. Like when we come back, they can bring up us and not the 1980 team. I mean, that's just special. Just winning the national championship here at Georgia.
Say, but a lot of people were talking about your defense being historically good before the Alabama game. What have you got to do to kind of cement its reputation the second time around?
I just play the brand of football we're able to play. You know, our guys take a tremendous amount of pride in the way we work and the work we put into this season, but it doesn't take anything exceptional or extraordinary. Just do what we know how to do.
Next will be Chip Towers. Chip.
Hey, Coach. You dealt with this some at the Orange Bowl, but obviously the no sacks against Alabama last time, and a lot of the narrative was that Georgia didn't try to pressure the quarterback that much. But yeah, I certainly don't look at it as educated as you do. But it looked like that you guys were really trying some stuff to get to him and just couldn't get to him. So obviously, how important is it to get pressure on Bryce Young this time? And what about the whole factor of, you know, it's just a month later. Do you do a lot of different things, or do you try to do the same things better?
Yeah, you know, ultimately we want to create pressure. We want to go get after Bryce. As far as how we're going to do it, I don't want to give away all our secrets yet, Chip. You know, hopefully we can wait till after the game to figure that out. But yeah, we want to generate pressure, and certainly there's a lot of different ways you can do that. He's really good at avoiding the rush, and they did some unique things to protect him. So we have to attack it a little bit differently, but you know, how we do that, there's a lot of different ways we can do it.
Next, we'll hear from Ralph Russo. Ralph.
Good morning, Dan. I'm interested, when you've been in a fair amount of different places, small school guy, as far as football yourself. When you're at Alabama for a year and now at Georgia, it's going to sound silly, like how much do you notice how much better the players are? But when you get to a place like Georgia and you've been other places, what is sort of that moment of like, oh my, like this looks different from some of the other places I've been? Obviously, you know that going in, but when you actually see it and are part of it, does it sort of hit you in a way that's a little different when you get there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference. And I mean, ultimately, I think one of the biggest things that's different, especially in our league and playing against a team like Alabama's, in the trenches, you know, up front with the defensive line and offensive line, but the speed on the field, you know, it's all relative because every football field's 100 yards, right? But the size and the speed is a tremendous difference.
Next will be Mark Weiser. Mark.
Hey, Dan. Nolan Smith was on here earlier, kind of shared how emotional he got losing to Alabama in the SEC championship game. Is that the player, you know, that pours a lot into what he does? And, you know, at the outside linebacker position, this is a little kind of a second question. What are you leaving behind when you go to Oregon in terms of guys that are up and coming that you expect can take a next step?
Yeah, I mean, Nolan's an emotional guy, but, you know, that's one of his greatest strengths. He takes so much pride in what he does. He cares so much. And I think that's one of the things that made us unique this year is how many guys on our defense and on our team that care. And, you know, obviously you want people on your team that care. Yeah, I'm excited about what that room will look like going forward. Probably not for the first game next year, but they've got some good guys in there, you know, Chaz Chambliss. You know, Nolan, I think, has got a great opportunity to make a decision on what he wants to do going forward. You know, MJ Sherman, you know, and there's some young talent that's getting brought in there as well. I know, you know, Rob Beal has a decision to make as well. So some of these guys have tough decisions to make. I know that's not their focus right now. And then we signed some, you know, young talent in that room also. So it'll be a good room.
Next will be Mike Rodak. Mike.
Just how do you go about preparing for Alabama's wide receivers, the younger guys who don't have a lot of film on them, and just how did you adjust your defense when John Mechie was injured in that last game?
Yeah, I mean, they have talent at wideout. Just, you know, even losing Mechie, those other guys that have come in have shown that they're obviously really capable and successful players, but it does change your plan. You'll have to do some things differently. I know we've brought a lot of speed over from the offense. At times we're able to use guys during certain periods to extend the field and push it down the field. And we're getting a really good look from our look team because we're able to use those guys. So ultimately it doesn't change everything that you do when they have different people plug and play, but there's an awareness on where certain guys line up and what they do when they line up there.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Zach Klein. Zach? You got Zach there?
There we go. Just waiting to get unmuted. Thanks, Brett. Dan, Nakobe Dean told me that you were the first ever coach to see him when he was in high school and you were in Memphis. He said that you told him you just want to put eyes on him, probably not going to get you here, but might get you down the road. What do you remember from that first meeting with Nakobe?
Yeah. Nakobe. Sorry, was there more to that question, Zach? Yeah. Ultimately, I was at Memphis at the time when I first learned about Nakobe Dean. He had a great head coach, Brad Boyette, who I was a big fan of, and that was my area, recruiting Mississippi, when I was at Memphis. So got to go down there and see him, and everybody talked about what kind of player he was, and that was evident on his film. He actually kind of played the star position, outside backer spot as a freshman. Played really early, but what was impressive was all the things off the field for Nakobe. His academic standing, the leader he was in his community. This guy did homework nonstop. When you talk to him in recruiting, he'd be, "Hey, coach, I appreciate it, but I got to get off the phone. I got to get back to homework." So he's just his work ethic, and he's a great example of the way you do anything is the way you do everything. Nakobe really lives by that standard. It's the same way he gives off the field, the same way he is in the classroom is the same way he is on the field. So I have a lot of fond memories of growing. Of recruiting Nakobe and then now having him as a player, and was excited to get to Georgia where we had a chance to get him.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Steve Croner. Steve?
Yeah, Coach, you don't have to worry about going against Brock Bowers for another 9 months anyway, but as a defensive coordinator, when a team has a tight end as good as Brock Bowers, what does that do to your mindset and to your scheme heading into that game?
Yeah, Brock's a headache for the other team. I'm glad he's on our team. In a lot of ways, Brock's like having another wideout out there on the field, obviously, and he's extremely talented, does a great job catching the ball in tough situations. I think he's developed a great amount of trust, with Stetson and in the offense, and he's really done, Coach Monken's done a phenomenal job of moving him around and using him in a lot of unique ways. So you definitely have to treat him different. You can't treat him like your standard tight end.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Michael Casagrande. Michael, you're up.
Yeah, Dan, we hear a lot about Kirby Smart and his ultra competitive side. What memories do you have of him? Anything behind the scenes that you could tell us about what he's like as a competitor in practices or in games?
It doesn't matter what it is for Coach Smart. I love his passion, and I've always said that I think your players take on the energy that you put out as a coach. And Coach Smart has tremendous passion, whether it be team run on a Tuesday in practice or if it's Saturday out there on game day. He brings it every single day. There's never been a day that I walked off the field and been like, well, Coach wasn't really out there. No, that's never happened. And you see the same thing around his family, whether he's playing basketball with his son or whatever it is, the guy just likes to win. And that resonates through our program. And he prepares to win. It's not something where you just roll the ball out and think you're going to show up. He's willing to do the work it takes to be successful. So I think he realizes that, when you compete, it's not just you compete on game day. You have to compete in the way you practice. You have to compete in the way you prepare, the way you analyze data and results. And you see that constantly from Coach Smart. That's something certainly that I've learned being here. But he wears it on his sleeve every day, and I appreciate that.
Next up is Maria Martin. Maria.
Hey, Dan, going back to Nakobe Dean for a second, we've seen him get recognized for what he's been able to do on the field this year. And, it seems like every Saturday or Friday, for that matter, that he's playing, he shows up. What have you seen in the evolution of him as a player throughout the season?
Yeah, I think, he's attacked a lot of the things that we thought he could get better at. Coach Schumann does a phenomenal job with that linebacker room, not just Nakobe, but, Channing, Quay Walker. These guys have played at a really high level all year. But, Nakobe's really improved in his coverage ability. In my mind, he's really taken pride in being an explosive blitzer, and he's created a lot of havoc plays with that, the way he's played, the physicality that he plays with. This guy tackles in practice. He works really hard in practice to be a good tackler, and I think that's something he's improved in, and you see. But he's just a lot more efficient overall in his movements, and that comes with reps. The more you play, the more successful you're going to be, and I think you see that with him.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll hear from Dennis Dodd. Dennis?
It's awkward silence.
Yeah, sorry about that, Coach.
All good. You want me to keep rolling?
Got Dennis Dodd coming up here.
Hey, there you go. Unmute. Dan, is there a position group that traditionally shows more leadership than others? And who are some of the best leaders you've had in your career on that side of the ball?
Yeah, it's a good question, Dennis. Ultimately, I don't think there's one. Leaders, a lot of times you can say you want to identify them as a coach, but the reality is the players identify the leaders on your team. It's who they follow. It's who they see do it. Each week, each day. I've been here before where we were, really led by guys in the back end like J.R. Reed but it's been every position group that I've been around. I mean, we've had it last year. I think, we had a little more leadership there at the corner position. Right now, you'd say that we're really, have leaders there on the defensive front with linebackers in the D line. But every year it's a different group. And the reality is the players follow the guys that lead. And I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of really good ones. This team has as good as any that I've ever been around. I think Coach Smart mentioned it earlier, this season, but it's the first time I've ever been a part of a team that we came off after a big win. And our players are in the locker room talking about, hey, what we have to do better, literally right after the game, call the entire team up. And I think that's unique. That's certainly special.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Seth Emerson. Seth, you're up.
Dan, not to relitigate the pass rush strategy against Alabama too much, but it seems like you all had a choice of do what some other teams had done against Alabama to success earlier, or kind of stick with what had worked for you all the first 12 games. Is that too simplistic a way to sum it up, or is that close to what you saw it as?
I don't know. I think we watched film pretty close and try to see what's successful against the team. And I think they had good answers and played better than we played that day. I think we're always been really pretty multiple and have a variety of ways that we can attack teams. I think we've carried that into every game. So if you go back and look at that game, we tried to attack in a lot of different ways and they were more successful than us. I think we'll always you got to have answers, and they had better answers that day than we did, but we'll build off of that.
Next up will be Mike Griffith. Mike, you're up. Ready for Mike Griffith now.
There we go. Yeah, we're the pause is because we have to unmute. We have to wait for them to prompt us, Coach.
All good.
I want to ask about Trayvon Walker and just the defensive end position. It doesn't seem to lend itself to the same sort of sack numbers. And I know everybody kind of plays their spot, but could you share the importance and the responsibility of that end position in Georgia's scheme? And then if you can elaborate just on Trayvon and what's made him so special.
Yeah, ultimately, I think one of the things that makes our defense special is they're willing to accept whatever role it is for that game for us to be successful. And, Trayvon's a great example of that. That being said, what makes Trayvon special is his athleticism. He's got special talent. He's very unique. I think we've all mentioned several times that he was a high school basketball player and really successful, but his ability to move I think you see in that last Michigan game, he's starting to play with another brand of physicality as well, and that's starting to show up. And that ultimately, to me, was one of the pieces of his game that he can improve on, and he's done a great job of that, embracing that challenge of being physical at the point of attack. But he's got speed, he's got the ability to drop in coverage, he's got the ability to rush the passer, and I think the production comes with that over time. But I'll say this: most teams know where he's at, and there's probably something to be said for that as well.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll hear from Connor Reilly. Connor Reilly will be next.
Hey, Dan, with this being your last game at Georgia, what are you going to miss about coaching at this place? And specifically with this defensive group, what are you going to miss about coaching them?
I mean, ultimately for me, coaching's about relationships. And I love these players like I love my family. They've just been so good to me. I wouldn't be near the coach I've been or had the success I've had in this profession if it wasn't for these players. So I'll miss that a lot. I'm going to miss the coaching staff. There's a great bond on our staff. I really enjoy the guys I get to work with every day. And I don't feel like I go to work. I feel like I'm going to do something I love each day, which is a pleasure. But to me, the people, ultimately I'll miss the people. Certainly excited about new adventures and really excited about the group of men and caliber of men that we have on our staff and the players. I mean, these players are great kids and super talented. So excited about that situation, but you'll always miss the people you work with and the people that helped you get where you're at now.
All right. Next up will be Ralph Russo. Ralph, you're up.
Hey, thanks for letting me ask a follow-up, Brett. Dan, I know you can't move the Atlanta metro area to Eugene, but what can you bring with you from your time at Georgia, philosophy, strategy, maybe apparatus that you can rebuild at your Oregon as far as recruiting is concerned?
Yeah, well, one of the big benefits, obviously, of being at Oregon is it is a national brand. We can go anywhere in the nation and be able to sign players. But I think you can just bring that relentless pursuit that we operate with day in and day out here, and the organization behind it. We can bring the mentality of how we play football to a certain level. And I've been really fortunate to have high quality experience in my time, whether it be here at Georgia or Memphis or Alabama or some of the other places I've been able to visit. So and coach. So taking all that out there, I think will be really important. And then the biggest thing is just learning from that experience. Not any situation is the exact same, but recruiting ultimately at the end of the day comes down to work, and it's going to take work to get great players at Oregon, and we have the ability to get great players there, and great players should want to come there.
All right, and our final question for today will come from Lane Higgins. Lane?
Hey there, Coach. It seems like in the past few years, few people have been able to solve Alabama, and, LSU and Clemson have had their chances to get one over Alabama. But does it feel like there's almost this accumulated pressure on Georgia, given how many swings this team has had against Alabama in consequential games, and also just the added pressure that it's happening again in a national championship, and, there's that whole 41 years thing hanging over your head too?
Yeah, none of that's hanging over our head, Lane. At the end of the day, we want to go perform to the best of our ability. We want to execute at a really, really high level. But ultimately, it's not about them; it's about us. We want to go play our best game, and if we play our best game, we feel confident that that we can win that game. That being said, they're a really good team, and they deserve all the credit in the world for everything they've done over time. But so are we. So we expect a good game. We expect a tough challenge. But there's no more pressure outside the room than the pressure that we put on ourselves to perform at a high level. I know that. And I know how much our players care, how much our coaches care. So we got to have a great plan, and we got to go out there and execute. And I think we can do that.
Coach, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to seeing you in Indianapolis this weekend.
Thank you.